Here we are, it's TwoSun Tuesday again, and I'm taking a look at a knife here that has kind of been out and well known and popular for quite some time. This is the Stingray. However, this is the Stingray-UP. I honestly don't quite know what is different about it. I've heard some people mention that the backspacer is different. But that's about the only thing I could really kind of see or imagine is a little bit different, unless the pocket clip is changed a little bit. I don't know. Either way, this has been around for a long time. We got a little tear-shaped cutout here, so you can easily open that with an index finger, or you can roll that little guy open there. And of course, and of course we have a front flipper for it. This is a fairly interesting design. It's from Mazwan Mokhtar, as we can kind of see here. Interesting that I think the original version probably wouldn't have had his logo there, nor TwoSun. I think it probably would have been laser engraved on the inside there, because Mazwan was really, really big on not billboarding blades with basically anything except for the steel that was inside of them. I don't know if TwoSun stepped in and went, no, we want a little bit more recognition, or whatever happened. I don't know, but that's kind of the way it is here. This knife here has a 3.45 inch blade, but it is thick. It's a full 4 millimeters going on here, and it's a saber grind. So this thing is really, really more designed for some harder use stuff here. This doesn't have exactly the most slicey blade. It's a little thick behind the edge, as you can see, and it doesn't take long for it to get up to that full 4 millimeters sort of thing going on there. But because of that, this blade is really heavy, and it's drop shut. So yeah, watch your fingers if you're not used to it. This thing has a little bit of a finger choil in the front here for doing the more hammer grip sort of thing here. As I've mentioned with some other knives, trying to use a finger choil like that with more of a thumb thing going at the same point or behind it, to me really takes a lot of power out of a cut. So I think it's basically either or. You can have it here for having those sort of cuts, or you can go like that. This thing is, I suppose, kind of Tonto-ish. It's obviously not fully crazy angled, but it still does have a bit of a transition there, as you can see. Not a crazy different transition, but it is basically two separate points of a grind on it. This one has, unfortunately, nothing for the for lock bar access. You can see it's absolutely flat on both sides here, and no scallops or anything like that going on the inside. It's still relatively easy to close that up, so that's nice. But yeah, I would have liked to have at least seen just a little bit of a scallops there. It does have internal lock bar relief on this. I would definitely consider to be a sub frame lock. We do have carbon fiber on the outer scales, and this is quite flat, so you actually really, really see the twill pattern on there, which I suppose these days that actually looks a little bit more like, that thin veneer of carbon fiber over G10. But this is, of course, real carbon fiber through and through. And let's see, if we go ahead and take a look on the inside, we can see that liner that goes all the way through there, or not the liner, but the backspacer there, has a groove cut out for the blade. And it is interesting. That I'm going to assume is kind of the same as it was on the original model, because we can see this little kind of a cylinder in the back there. Looks like a Chicago screw would go all the way through there, possibly to attach to the pocket clip. But that's not the case on this one in particular, so that's probably part of the dash up that's going on with it. If I didn't cover it before earlier, this is an M390. Of course, the up version, this is the only steel that it came in. As far as the originals, there was also a lot of them in M390, but I do think they also started out with 14C28N. That was, of course, before I started collecting, so hey, there you go. I got a really, really good deal on this because that was back when they were still doing a lot of auctions and things like that. And I got a hold of this guy for $81, which ain't bad at all for a fairly large-sized M390 blade, titanium, carbon fiber from a well-known designer and all that sort of stuff. So that was a really, really good deal. Recently, I've been paying more than that for their D2 titanium knives and stuff like that. Oh, how time flies. Right. So, yes, as I was mentioning earlier, this is for a lot more heavy-duty use because that grind on this thing is not particularly slicey. It's fairly thick behind the edge. Well, it does thin out decently, but it gets back up to that thickness real quick. And also, you don't really have any front protection, so if you do want to use this for more of the piercing, which would use that reinforced tip, and I am talking really reinforced, you really want to kind of grip it further back so your thumb is interfaced there, but you can have it planted in the middle of your palm, because if you don't, it's relatively easy for you to slide up that blade. There's not a whole lot stopping you. The plunge grind is done quite nice on here, though, where you can see it ends way back here. So you have a decent amount of sharpenings before you'd actually get up to the point where that choil and everything is out of the way. But at that point, you kind of have a pocket axe because this thing's going to get thick real quick. The M390 should help with that, though, of course, as it does hold an edge pretty decently. And, of course, very nice and corrosive resistant. Yeah. And, of course, reverse grip also works really well if you're, I don't know, doing something like pairing or something like that, or you have something looped over it if you're doing kind of one of those chest pull kind of motions for cutting through things. So that works out all right. Yeah, I do kind of have a love, not love-hate, but love-dislike kind of thing for this thing. It's not particularly my favorite design. Like I said, I mean, it's fairly thick behind the edge there. Very slick from the polished carbon fiber, and basically no other ways to grip that outside of, you have the thumb jumping there to that little ramp. But, yeah, you really can't deny that this thing has some really nice action going on there. Nice guillotine shot. So, it's definitely well made. But, yeah, like I said, it just doesn't necessarily fit exactly what I end up looking for in a standard EDC knife. But, okay, how about if we go ahead and talk about some measurements here. I did mention that we have a 4mm blade stock thickness, stupid thick. I also mentioned that we have a 3.45 inch blade, basically measured from tip of the scale there out to the tip here. But as you can see, that basically is the same there. So sharpened blade length is going to be about the same. That's 87.6 millimeters if you're looking for metric measurements going on there. As far as the thickness goes, we got 0.60, which is a little bit thick, but part of that, of course, comes from the fact that we have 4 millimeters in the middle there that adds to it. Usually, if a knife is that thick, I personally like it to be contoured, whereas this is a little bit more flat slabby. But, of course, you kind of need that if you are looking for a uniform twill kind of design going on there. So that's 15.3 millimeters wide if you're looking for that here. And because of a lot of that, this thing is it's on the heavier side. It's 4.52 ounces or 128 grams. So not crazy heavy, but yeah, it's kind of up there. Let's go ahead and do some blade size comparisons here. Let's pull out a couple of Spydercos. There's the Endura and the PM4, or PM4, PM2. It's really early in the morning. I was thinking about doing a PM Dawn reference, but never mind. Let's see. So I did that. How about Benchmade? Let's go ahead and do something like, oops, the 940 there, and the 535 bug out. Fairly similar as far as blade and handle. This thing is just a little bit larger, but not by much. Of course, this is very much on the opposite end of the spectrum. Really thin blade, really thin scales, and all of that. Let's see. This one I think would make sense for the K-bar folding hunter there. And sure, the Kalashnikov 74. Yeah, very interesting, and this one's been around for a while. I'm sure basically a lot of people really enjoy this knife. Otherwise, for one, they wouldn't have re-released it in M390, and for another thing, they wouldn't have done an upgraded version that, like I said, I think it was just kind of some subtle changes that were done on it. But hey, there you go. This thing does have Mazwan's ball interface on the pocket clip. Not my absolute favorite. This one actually has a decent amount of flex, and that ball is much smaller than it is on a lot of others, so it is a bit easier to get in and out of the pocket. So that's decently nice, but you are going to end up with not too bad sticking out of the pocket afterwards there. So yeah, pretty nice knife, and I'm definitely glad to have been able to get a hold of it for about 80 bucks. So, at this point, that's basically my thoughts and measurements and all that sort of stuff. So, if you're not interested in seeing what's on the inside of this guy, appreciate y'all for stopping by. For the rest of us, though, let's go ahead and delve a little deeper. So, let's go ahead and pull this screw out here. Oh, the Chicago screw came out the other side. Okay. No big deal. Let's take care of the pivot. This still doesn't have, yeah, here we go. Still doesn't have a D-shaped pivot. I'm surprised they didn't actually do something about that in particular when they did this up variant of it. This is going to be kind of a pain in the butt. I do have a TwoSun tool kind of designed for this, but hell, if I'd know what I did with it. But I'm going to have to find it here. So, yeah, I'll be back in just one moment. Alright, I have found my little TwoSun tool here. So, that should grip on there. That's good. That's good. I am a professional. Professional what? I don't know. Maybe jackass? But, it would be nice if I actually had a driver that could hold on to this thing in particular. Why aren't you gripping? There we go. There we go. Okay. Well, that's not exactly the way that I wanted all of this to come apart, but it's what's happened. So there we are. Okay. We in there. So, yeah, just flat slabs on the inside. Of course, we have the lock bar cutout and all that sort of stuff going on there. There's the pocket clip mounted on the inside. And I honestly don't remember if I can pull these off or if they are adhered on there. Of course, this one will, because it's much easier to deal with that. But sometimes they do put adhesive on some of these things. Oh, well, I will try and do it on this one. So take that pocket clip off. At that point, I can get my finger in the side there. Yep. So it is an inlay, not an onlay, but maybe not by a huge amount. Of course, just a little bit of that pivot oil can end up seeping through there. Not a big deal, but hey, it happens. Alright, so before I do anything stupid, I should probably put the pocket clip back on there. There we are. So, internal blade pen, that's good. We have a fairly deep detent ramp going on there. Not a huge patch for the liner or the frame lock to actually interface with, but hey, it is certainly plenty, especially when you have full-size sub frame lock going on there. Yeah, other than that, fairly simple on the inside there. This is, of course, one of their older models. That's why it has a little bit more of a not a D-shaped pivot going on there. This thing here, I got from White Mountain Knives. I don't think TwoSun themselves manufacture it, but it is basically just a little bit that has those little tri things on there that will fit into their kind of pivot thing there. Unfortunately, this uses a really, really large bit size thing for it. Much larger than the 1/4 inch, which is the larger version of these iFixit things that I have. Otherwise, I would have definitely used that on there. But hey, it was definitely useful for this thing. And the reason why that ended up happening, why I ended up having difficulty with it, was due to me putting basically some thread locker on there. Because of the way that we have the carbon fiber onlays on there, trying to squeeze it together to put a little bit of tension on there might have helped, but hey, I had the tool, so I just did it that way instead. But definitely something that I would have liked to have seen them do a little bit different for the upgraded version here. But oh well. Still a nice knife, especially if you like them thick like a ball of oatmeal. Alright, so let's go ahead and stuff them back together here. There's a bearing race that came off of the liner over here. Not having a D-shaped pivot on it, though, really makes it super easy to put them back together when you don't have to worry about any of those things kind of lining up. But yeah, we at least got them back together. It's just a little tiny bit of blade play going on in there. It's still going on in there. Yeah, there we go. pretty much centered and all that sort of good stuff. So there we go. Yeah. So something you definitely need to keep in mind with this thing here, especially if you do want to put some kind of a thread locker in there, is no D-shaped pivot. So this one might be a little bit more difficult to get out than some others. But that thing I was mentioning earlier is sometimes if you do have a problem with a pivot that's spinning like that, is you can basically squeeze down on the top of that blade here, and that will kind of keep that in place. So you can easily tighten things up, and it works out super, super well. So that was definitely probably the first thing I should have done. But in the moment, I just completely forgot about it. But, all right. So that is basically everything I wanted to cover there. So, yeah, as always, I appreciate y'all for watching. And have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.